Omane pe me hong. Oh, yeah, that worked out nicely. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. First of all, I want to say thanks to everybody for helping us with our setup today and being present for our visitors and making great snacks. And also providing a nice space for our families who are here today. It's Family Day. We do family programming on first Sundays and third Sundays, and so it's always great to see families and young folks here. So I want to just thank all the volunteers and thank you, for bringing your goodness to this space. I like to talk about this space, as you can imagine. There's a lot to talk about. But one of my favorite things to talk about this space is what it feels like, because everybody comes here and people bring their sincerity to this place and they bring their aspirations to this place and they sit in this place and bring those aspirations and bring those, I guess you could see kind of like the offerings of their goodness to this place, and they bless it with their presence. And so I just want to thank all of you for blessing us with your presence today. And I hope that you find something here that is valuable and good for you. So thank you. So today, I'm going to talk about one of the many activities that happens in this room, because previous speakers have been speaking about the history of the saintly masters who are depicted in these statues behind me, and talking about their lives and their accomplishments and what they bring to modern folks like us who live in a completely different world than they lived in, and yet a world that is not so different. So we started with the talks about those. So we did some talks about those, but now I'm going to talk about things that happen in the room, because I'm still adjusting. I don't know, are you guys all right? Have you adjusted? Have you adjusted to having these amazing statues in the room? If you're visiting for the first time today, well, then they're new to you too. So we had small shrines, several small shrines, and now we have some big ones. And so it's a very different feeling when you come into the room. So in any case, my topic today is about chanting meditation, and what is that, and what's that all about, and why do we do that, and to give you a sense of how chanting can be a form of meditation, and also another way to add goodness to this room, because that's what we're doing every single time we come in here. We bring our goodness here, and when we sit and meditate here, when we get up to leave, we actually leave some goodness behind. And a lot of people, when they come into this room, they say, hey, this room feels pretty good. And it's because of all this sincerity that keeps coming back here. A friend of mine just texted me this morning from Japan. And she's visiting all kinds of shrines there. And she said, more than 1,000 years of people coming to these places have really left it feeling like holy ground, And so I said, well, we're not quite to that place yet. we got about 900 years to go. Actually, 950. Our 50th anniversary, the 50th anniversary of Columbus KTC will be in 2027. So mark your calendars, we'll be there, hopefully. So in any case, so my topic for today is, what's the point of puja? What is puja and what's the point? What is the point? And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But before we start, let's start with talk about sincerity. Let's bring some goodness and sincerity to the place. We'll start with the refuge prayer, which is on the front side of the laminated sheet. We'll recite this 2 times in English, and then I'm going to give it my best effort to chant it in Tibetan. My own teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, said, your Tibetan pronunciation is horrible. And I said, thank you. But at least it's something I know about myself. So, well, we'll start with the English, the words in the Buddha. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. And so we'll recite the Tibetan now. Or sanje chudang soji chonamla jang chu pardu dani kyap suji daji jin soji pei sunam ki drola penshir sanje druparasho. And now we'll sit quietly for 1 minute to kind of bring our being to a place of quiet so we can discuss Dharma a little bit. About 1 minute of quiet sitting. Okay, thanks very much. That gives us a chance to kind of leave behind the chitter-chatter of earlier. Okay, I'll recite one short prayer and then we'll get started. O Palin Sawe Lama Rinpoche Tagi Chiwar Pede Ten Shala Kadran Jambo Gane Je Sunte Kusum Tugging a Trip Sal Du Sol. Okay, thanks very much. So before getting into my topic, I have to ask a kind of a simple question. Does anybody here like movies? Ooh, we got some movie people. All right, just checking. Does anybody feel comfortable telling me why they like movies? Try, just one. Sorry. Fancy? Oh, fantasy. Okay, they like. Okay, fantasy. What else? What else do you get out of movies? Yes. Escapism. Okay, fantasy. Okay, now we're getting a theme. Okay, yes. Getting an inside view of other people's lives. Ooh, yeah, these are all good. Let's take two more. Yes. The visual, yeah. Tell me, what do you like about the visuals of movies? Yeah, when there's a lot of horizon and space and it feels kind of like, whew. Oh, okay, I get that. Okay, in the back over here, I saw somebody had their hand up. Yes, okay.
Just the amount of meaning you pack into an image.
The amount of what?
Meaning
that you can put into an image. Oh, yeah, okay. See, so maybe, oh, yeah. Oh, you'll get to go places you never really get to go to in life. I tell you what, that is a good one. Yeah. Yes, The action, tell me more. Oh, the acting. Oh, yeah, like they really embody a character and bring that character to life, which is really kind of like similar to the idea of being able to step in somebody else's shoes and see life from their perspective. And yes? Sorry? The story. Oh, tell me about a story. Like what kind of story really does? Just, yeah, you're in the story. Okay, that's a really good, that's a good observation. Yes? Did you say easy? And the reason it's easy is because? You just sit and watch. Okay, yeah, I get it, yeah. You like? Oh, education? Oh, so yeah, so watching documentaries gives you some information you didn't have before. Oh, I like that. That's true too. Oh, yeah, uh-huh. Oh, the recreation of history. Wow, okay. I like that. Well, see, and that's really great because when the past is accurately, or even like not quite accurately, but as close as humanly possible, gets recreated, we get a sense of again what other people's lives were like. Yeah, and portals into different worlds and dimensions. Oh, time traveling. Okay, all right. Is it? Yeah. Well, sure. Everybody's got something to say this morning. First you and then in blue. Yeah.
Humor and absurdity.
Humor and absurdity. Oh, yeah, because again, you inhabit a story in which absurd and strange things happen, and it's not like everyday life, but kind of like everyday life. Yeah.
Taking you to places you wouldn't otherwise be able to go, but in particular, nature and other animals and other sentient beings
Yeah.
in existence.
Yeah, you could. I tell you what, I also get a greater appreciation for the lives of animals. I mean, right? Talk about documentaries. They have been making some amazing documentaries from the point of view of insects and tiny animals, and so you get a sense of really the world they inhabit. Well, I love it that you see. Here's the thing. I think everybody loves movies. And I think that it's for all of the reasons that you've described. People love the movies because they do get to experience, they get a little escapism and they just can sit and watch and relax and be part of a world that is not theirs necessarily, but actually is like theirs in such a way. Here's something that I get out of movies. I get all of those things that you talked about because I love to look at the acting and I love to look at the cinematography. I mean, I just love all of that because, I took one semester of review and criticism in my journalism education, and it has stood me in good stead ever since. Now I unfortunately look a little too critically sometimes at films and movies, films and theater and so forth, but I still love it. Okay, so I love it for all those reasons. But there's one other thing that I sort of like, and I bet a lot of you will resonate with this. And the thing that I notice is that sometimes I go into the movie with one idea about life and one idea about people. And then I sit through that movie. I experience that movie as an observer or as a participant if the story is really good. I participate in that movie, and then when I get up from my seat and go out from the movie, or if it's a movie I'm watching at home, going to the next room, I get up from seeing that movie with a different idea. Something about my thinking has changed. Maybe I have been able to live a life in somebody else's shoes. Maybe I have been able to see something I would not have seen otherwise except through the story that's told. And so I feel that storytelling and theater and film are so important to us because as human beings, we have very complicated lives. Our lives are very complicated. We have very complicated physical and emotional and mental and educational and even spiritual. We have very complicated lives. And so seeing the narrative, especially a story that's uplifting and that is transformational, like a redemption story or something like that, it really moves us. And it really makes us see that things that we didn't think were possible before might actually be possible. And I think that this is the enduring quality of all storytelling, whether it's through film, theater, or whatever. I'm also a theater nut, so you can, if you want to talk Broadway, stay after. Anyway, but all of this storytelling helps us. It helps us because sometimes we'll see the characters in a story solve a problem that maybe is a problem we've had, or they're facing the kind of problem that we're facing, something that we're going through. They're facing it. And they figure out a clever way to work with it, or a creative way to bridge a gap that they sense between themselves and another person. So there's a lot we can learn from stories and from film and theater and books and so on. We can learn this because we've got complicated minds. And we need things to come to us in a form that we can understand. So, what does that have to do with chanting? Pretty much everything, actually. Pretty much everything. Because what happens in a Tibetan chant meditation is a story. We are introduced to a story about awakening, about Buddhahood, and what Buddhahood must be like for someone who experiences it, a different way of seeing, a different way of being. And we get introduced to this, and we actually, in some of the chanting practices, we actually become an enlightened being, just for a short period of time. And yes, it's just make-believe. It's just make-believe, but it's a story that we're telling ourselves about something, not about something that's not true. It's telling ourselves a story about something that is true, and that is that we have the capacity to become like the Buddha. Because this was really a central teaching of the historical Buddha Shakyamuni, was that all beings have the potential to awaken to their inner compassion, wisdom, and goodness. They have to remove their obstacles and obscurations. There's our story. We have to surrender our obstacles, and we have to surrender our preconceived notions. We have to surrender those things and entertain the idea that maybe we could become an enlightened being ourselves. I know that sounds weird, but the teaching on Buddha nature is central to all of the schools of Buddhism, that we all have a capacity. I don't know, a lot of capacity or a little capacity. We have capacity to recognize our own inner nature, which is called our Buddha nature. And that the chant meditations we do here help us toward that goal. And so that's the reason I wanted to talk about movies, because I myself feel that as a sadhana practice, the word sadhana has to do with this whole process of visualizing a Buddha and interacting with a Buddha symbolically through chant. The whole idea, that's what sadhana is. And I believe in a more modern Indian language, of the language of India, a more modern language, it's called Puja, P-U-J-A, which autocorrect keeps trying to make into Puma every single time. Every single time I try to type Puja, I've talked to she who will not be named. I tell her it's Puja. Siri, it's Puja. P-U-J-A, but nope, P-U-M-A every time, Puma. So anyway, I don't know if she wants to buy shoes or if she wants us to escape from a dangerous animal. I have no idea. But anyway. But the word puja has a similar connotation to the word sadhana. It consists of a chanting meditation in which we place our attention on two things. The chant itself, and also an accompanying story or visualization that goes with it. Let me give you an example. And one of the large statues here is on my right. It'd be your left, in the second cabinet, the large cabinet. That's Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva of compassion. And he is visualized as having 4 arms. Now, some people say, that's weird, and I say, yeah, but we come from a culture of people who believe that there are people out there with wings. You know, so hey, if you believe in angels, a four-armed Buddha isn't so far out. I'm just saying. Anyhow, but whether we're talking about wings or extra arms and hands or whatever we're talking about abilities beyond human abilities, beyond our ordinary ability. And so his extra arms symbolize his ability to go beyond the human capacity for love, the human capacity for compassion, and so on. So in the meditation that we do every Tuesday night, we do a meditation only on Zoom. We haven't yet been able to manage getting it here on Tuesday nights, but we'll get here eventually. I just need to organize a little bit better because it's a lot of volunteers needed to put one of these on in an evening. But anyway, on our Tuesday night online Chenrezig meditation, it starts with a lot of, beginning chants, to kind of get us in the frame of mind of meditating. And then it begins by saying, on the crown of my head and on the crown of all of the heads of all beings throughout space. That's a story, right? That is a story, is Chenrezig. He is in a small form above the head of every single being in the universe. That's the story. Now, let's talk about how that works. Right now, we have attitudes about other people. I don't know if this is news to you, but we often have attitudes about other people that are not friendly attitudes. Maybe somebody's caused us harm. Maybe someone we just don't agree with them on any level whatsoever, or that we just really can't stand to even think about. So we've got some people like that in our lives. But this practice requires us to do 2 things. It requires us to use our imagination in a way we're not used to using it, by asking us to imagine that everyone in the universe, even the people we don't like, have Chenrezig over their heads, and he's getting ready to bless them. I know that's hard, but sometimes we have to do hard things. Sometimes in life, we just have to do hard things. But we have some help, because Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva of compassion, the stories that are told about him is that his compassion was so powerful that when he generated the mind of enlightenment, saying, I will become enlightened for the sake of all beings, when he said it for the first time, he also added a sentence. He said, and I will stay behind in this world of suffering until I have escorted everyone out. And everybody who heard him say this, they bowed in his direction. That is supreme love. That is supreme compassion. They're willing to stay behind until they turn the light out on this world of suffering that the Buddha called samsara. So that's pretty powerful compassion. And that compassion, we're using our imagination now. We don't think of a real, live, flesh and blood Buddha above the head of these people or beings or animals or whatever. We're seeing it as being made of light and empty inside, so that we begin to sort of bust up our ideas about solidity. Because part of the reasons we have conflict in our lives is because we take everything so darn seriously. Now, granted, there are a lot of things we need to take seriously, and I'm not saying we shouldn't take the things we need to take seriously. But I'm asking all of us to think about the things we take a little too seriously that maybe we could do with a little bit of lightening up. Maybe we could do with a little bit of release and, letting go. We could maybe do a little with that. And so this is why using a visualization along with the chant is so powerful. Because how do we usually talk about how do we usually deal with our feelings and thoughts about other people? We talk, right? Sometimes we say really bad things about people when they are not around. And sometimes the person we're saying really bad things about is us. And we are around, and we can hear you. We can hear you. So what we have to try to do in the visualization meditation is entertain a different reality. And so we imagine that this loving, deeply loving, deeply compassionate, wise presence is above our head and above the heads of all beings, including people we don't like. And so once we imagine Chenrezig there, we fold our hands and we say, Lord, we need you. Yeah, I need this compassion. I need this love. I need, what you are. I need to become what you are, which is really an ultimate statement of taking refuge. That's what the Buddhists mean by taking refuge. We turn toward a Buddha or a Bodhisattva and say, protect me from the sufferings of this world that I'm in. Protect me against my own anger. Protect me against my own suffering. Protect me against my own prejudices and so forth and so on. Protect me. And after we've said those words, then we use our imagination to imagine that light shines from Chenrezig's form and transforms the whole world into a paradise, a place that is beautiful and a place that is kind and good and loving. And he transforms us and removes all about us all the grudges that we hold against ourselves for all those reasons that we hold grudges against ourselves. And all those grudges we hold against other people, it dissolves all of those just for a moment. And in that moment, all of us become Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva of compassion. We all become him. His name, Chenrezig, has to do with watching. He's the one who watches and sees the suffering of the world and feels compassion because of it. So that's the meaning of his name in Tibetan. Chenrezig, the one who is always watching and always looking and seeing and feeling the compassion. So now the story has now become our story, because we've imagined that everything that is wrong in our hearts and minds has been washed away by the blessings of wisdom and compassion. We imagine that that's what happens in this story. In this story, he's purified us. In this story, we have changed. In this story, even the people we don't like have become Chenrezig. And so the world has this flavor now. Even if it's just in our imagination, this world has a flavor of goodness everywhere. Suffused within it is a flavor of goodness. And like, I guess you could say the scent also of goodness. And then we recite the Chenrezig mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, or Om Mani Padme Hum, depending on which way you pronounce it. If you pronounce it like the Tibetans do, it's Om Mani Padme Hum. And the name is really, it's a play on his name. The Mani, the word Mani, M-A-N-I, has to do with a jewel. And that this figure of Chenrezig is holding in his center two hands. He's holding a jewel, and that jewel is symbolic of our Buddha nature. which, like a wish-fulfilling jewel, will give us all of our wishes if we realize it. And then the outer right hand holds a rosary, and the outer left hand holds a lotus flower. The rosary means that his compassion is endless, like a circle. And the lotus flower is symbolic of the bodhisattva. Bodhi means awakening, and sattva means a person with the mind of awakening. Bodhisattva is a person who tries to wake up, tries to awaken to their Buddha nature. And so these qualities now that we associated with Chenrezig are actually now our qualities. And while we recite his name, because Mani means jewel and Padme means lotus, Om has to do with the enlightened body of the Buddha, Hong has to do with the enlightened mind of the Buddha. So we recite this prayer of transcendent awakening that has a name in it that's symbolic of our own qualities. Qualities that we don't have to import because they are already here. And so that's the drama that gets enacted in a puja. There are different pujas. There's one for Medicine Buddha, for example, that's all about healing, where we visualize the Medicine Buddha healing us and healing the world. There's another one that has to do with Tara, the Savioress. And Tara, the Savioress, is the feminine aspect and the active aspect of compassion. Chenrezig is more peaceful, she is more active. You can see because she's got her right foot out. She's ready to get up and do something to assist others. So she has also a practice that we do here every Sunday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. And so if you ever want to come and be here for it, it's here. And Chenrezig, the chant is first and fifth Sundays at 10, and it's also every Tuesday online at 7. So these stories get told in our chants, our pujas. But then there are also Sunday pujas that we do after the Dharma talk. There's another little break for tea and snacks, and then somewhere between 1 and 1:15, we start other practices. And on the first Sunday of the month, we do a practice of offering, where we especially pray for those who are suffering a great deal from illnesses or from obstacles, and we pray for the removal of their obstacles. And then that's a practice called Che, or severance, where it's all about cutting the worry and fear of beings. And then on the third Sundays at 1:15, we do a protector ritual. We don't have a large statue. It is on order, and it will be here soon. Probably in the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks, we'll have a beautiful 3-foot-tall statue that will go. Actually, Chenrezig, the 1,000-armed Chenrezig, will swap places over here, and then we'll have a protector. And everybody says, well, what are the protectors for? Because you see them in temples. You see protector figures in temples all over Asia. They usually have weapons, you know. In fact, I just went to our home monastery last week, and there was this amazing general with a big battle axe, and I'm like, okay. The idea that when people tell me that's a little scary, I say, have you ever driven up on North High Street to St. Michael's the Archangel's Parish, up on North High, above just north of Morse? He's got a sword, man, and he looks pretty bad and pretty dangerous. I think he's stepping on Satan. So yeah, people ask, well, what is this for? What are these chants for? The protector chants. And I say it's to protect us from our own worst impulses. And it's one of those things, if you know, you know. If you know what your own worst impulses are, you know. If you know, you know. And it's about trying to give them up and trying to go beyond them. So these little dramas get enacted every week, every month, here and they're part of our spiritual life. And so most of the people who come to visit us for the first time, they love meditation. And meditation is so good for so many people. I still do it absolutely every day. It's really helped me to stay sane in a crazy world, right? Just being able to take some time out, unplug from all of the continuous bombardment and stimulation in an environment that's relatively quiet given the street noise, and we're here and we're sitting silently together, intentionally being, just being. And that's a powerful thing. But we could also be inside these particular stories, inside the story of the beings who generate compassion, inside the stories of the beings who generate healing, inside the stories of those who provide protection. It's not for everybody, because right now, they're all being done in a language that is foreign to you. What I do is I tell people, take a copy home and study it. The only one we can't do that with is the protector chant. So that's like a more restricted text. But all of the others you can download from our website, the Healing Buddha, Tara, Chenrezig, and so on. And today we're going to be doing a puja. I know you've got plans, but on a fourth Sunday, if one occurs, and yes, this is not the fourth Sunday. It's a long story. It has to do with me being away last weekend. We moved it to this week. We're going to have a snack feast. Yeah, but it's a longer chant. It's about an hour and a half, so not everybody's up for that. But there will be snacks, so there's that. But in any case, the other sadhanas are much shorter. Chenrezig is about an hour. Tara is about an hour. Medicine Buddha is less than an hour. And White Tara is less than an hour. So these shorter ones are much easier to attend. So I just thought I would say something about pujas and what's the point? The point of doing them, even though we are doing them in a language other than the one we grew up with, the idea is that we're invoking something greater than ourselves, asking for it to be present, asking for it to purify and bless us so that we can begin to unburden ourselves of the things that cause us pain and suffering and take on the qualities of an enlightened being. Take on the compassion, take on the healing, take on the goodness, and so on. And we also get a chance to, at least symbolically, bless the people we do not like, which actually is a very powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing. My father, I tell lots of stories about my dad. He was in a recovery group for many, many years. He's passed away now, and he liked to talk about the whole recovery, the whole process of recovery, and how it changed his life, and made him believe that he could begin to let go of the things that made him suffer, and he would say in the big book, which is the book called Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a practice in that book that's called praying for 30 days for someone else to have the things you want for yourself. And you usually practice this for people you're in conflict with. And the key is when you're praying for someone, you're not actively hating them, which all by itself is a powerful thing. And then if you're wishing for them to have goodness, you're increasing your own capacity for love and your own capacity to give love and receive love. So the stories that are told in these little movies, hopefully, are transformational. And that's why they're part of the spiritual life of this community. You don't have to attend them, it's not required. The meditation that we do on Sundays is a great anchor for your spiritual life, because it gives us something we don't get anywhere else, and that is a moment's peace. A moment's peace in this incredible environment we're living in. And so, but if you would ever like to, branch out a little bit and attend any of the others, feel welcome to do so. And you can identify yourself as, I'm a first timer, and then they'll help you get through it and show you where to read in the book. Or if you just want to sit in and listen, that's good. That's really good. Okay, I've talked a bunch. Maybe we should have a discussion, because we got another few minutes before we close for the day. So if anybody has things they're curious about, questions they have, and so on, yeah, you can use the question mics.
See you. Well, to you, and thank you for the cool teaching.
It's good to be seen.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm looking at Chinrezi,
Yeah.
the big one.
Oh, you mean the 1,000-arm?
Oh, well, the bigger one.
Yeah, the larger statue.
Yeah,
I get you.
The forearm, just
Yeah,
one with
yeah.
only 4 arms.
Only 4.
Yeah. So I understand that this is a symbol. It's a reminder of the things you talked about.
Sure.
But I don't understand so much from a Buddhist perspective whether these statues, I know they've been blessed,
Yeah.
they've been filled, they've been
Yeah.
consecrated.
Yeah.
And Buddhists take these things very, very seriously, as we witnessed.
Yeah.
So are we to believe that the statue itself emanates something? Are we getting something from the statue other than the reminder of the story and all that stuff you talked about? Because this is a bit of a hang-up for me.
Oh, sure.
I want to understand that.
Oh, sure. Well, I'll tell you what. Number one, excellent question. And number two, I think the answer is, it depends. It depends. What we as people experience being in the presence of a statue that is filled and has a packet of relics at the heart and is filled with rolls of mantras. There's thousands of mantras inside each one of these statues. So the idea is that the relics stand for the enlightened mind of the Buddha. The mantra rolls is the enlightened speech of the Buddha, and the exterior of the statue is the enlightened body, okay? So if we have these, when we have these in front of us, it really does, in the end, depend on what the Buddha called interdependence, okay? Interdependence. The statue is here, and Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said, we've asked the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to actually be present here. And he said, I know, some of y'all think they're not real. One time he was teaching, it wasn't here, it was at the monastery. He said, I know, some of y'all think they're like Jungian archetypes, and that they're not real and they don't really refer to real beings. He said, but I'm here to tell you, they're real. And when you ask them to be present with you, they actually show up. And when you ask them to stay, they actually stay. He said, why do you think that holy places are holy places? I mean, my friend who's in Japan right now, she says, you can feel that 1,000 years of people coming to these places with their sincerity and then leaving some of that sincerity behind when they leave. There's a feeling about these places. And the same is true for horrible places where there was a lot of killing. Some people say they go to a place where there was a lot of killing, and they said the place feels haunted. And, so I think, we got something going on there that is interdependent. But not all of us feel that. And if we don't feel it, it's okay. And it's, but the idea of treating an image with respect in a way is about treating ourselves with respect. Because we have Buddha nature. So the Buddha there and the Buddha here are not that, in fact, they're not different at all. the Buddha that's represented there and the Buddha that's here. Are the statues alive? No, they are not alive. But because we've invited the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to be present. That's what happens in a puja. Every time a puja gets done, we ask the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to kind of like show up. Hi, you know. And so, but I'm not sure. I think there's a part of your question I've missed. What did I miss?
The only part you missed is the part I haven't asked.
Oh.
Yes? No, and for the sake of time and sharing the mic, I won't ask. I appreciate your answer. It's a mysterious thing to me, and answers lead to new questions, but they can wait.
Okay,
So
well,
I don't want to hog. I don't want to be I'm not a mic hog. Okay,
well, but we got time.
I'm a mic bodhisattva. I'm just
Okay. I understand. If you feel comfortable asking the question, go ahead and ask. Or if it's not well formed in your mind, you don't have to.
But I got so busy trying to be clever, I forgot what I was going to say.
Right. Hey, you know what? Welcome to my world. Yeah. I think that's just fine. Don't worry.
Well, really, it has to do with, I don't understand really the way in which we understand that the bodhisattvas and the Buddhas are still present.
I get you. Okay.
Because it sounds like spirits. It sounds a little bit like angels. God forbid, it sounds a little bit like God.
I get you.
That's all.
Well, you know, and I do appreciate you asking that, because I do feel that this does come, you know, straight into the area of belief. What do we believe about a human life? Yeah. You know, and this is going to be different. And you know what my teacher told me? He said, if you hear a Buddhist teaching and you don't believe it, he said, that's okay. He said, take what you need and leave the rest behind. Now, that is so interesting to me, because that's a 12-step slogan. Take what you need and leave the rest behind. But those are the exact words the translator used. It's like, how did he know that? He never came, he didn't come to America until 1976, and he can't read any English books. So how did he know that? But he said, you don't have to believe these things. But but you're invited. If you want to, you can. So I think the bottom line is that the Buddha did not teach creation. He did not say that there was a creator who created what we call the soul or the spirit or the mind of sentient beings. Nobody did that. That was his, and that we have, all of us, always existed from the no beginning of time, and we always will exist in the no ending of time. But because that is a belief, you can either have that belief or not have that belief. But I feel like it's demonstrated in a way, it's demonstrated for us in our everyday life. Because Kempo Rinpoche was asked by a little boy who said, like, I don't believe in this whole rebirth thing, you know. Some people call it reincarnation, but in Buddhism they call it rebirth. And, you know, where you have different incarnations. And the little boy said, I don't believe in that. And he said, I understand that. My teacher said, yeah, I understand that. He said, how about this, though? He said, do you believe in yesterday? And the little boy said, well, sure, it happened. It was yesterday. And he said, okay, do you believe in tomorrow? Well, yeah, tomorrow's on the calendar. It's going to happen. He said, well, then you believe in rebirth. Because you were here yesterday and you will be here tomorrow, and that stretches infinitely in both directions. And it kind of like blew his mind a little bit, you know. But the idea is that if that is the case, that's the first thing that we are invited to consider, that we were never created, but we have always existed and always will exist. That's the first thing we're invited to consider. Second thing is that enlightenment is real, and that there is a means by which human beings can overcome fear and can overcome the notion of a self. They can overcome these things and enter into a wisdom about the nature of mind and the nature of all things. Now, lucky for us, Star Trek has done this already. I have now forgotten which of the series this was. I am really embarrassed. that I have now forgotten which of the Star Trek series there is. But there was one of the more recent Star Trek series where one of the alien life forms experienced enlightenment and became completely free of fear. And it really like freaked everybody out because their personality became less judgmental and kinder. And so it kind of happened for somebody in some alien life form in Star Trek. So we've got an example of what that looks like.
Proof.
Huh?
Final proof, right?
Yeah.
The proof.
Anyway, so if we believe that enlightenment is a state of power and ability, it's a state of wisdom, power, and ability, well, then of course they can be here. Yeah. I mean, hey, so it's just an invitation to consider.
Gotcha.
For your consideration.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, hey, thanks
Lots
for
of
asking.
Food for thought.
Food for thought, there you go.
Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. Yes.
Morning. Thank you, Lama Kathy, for the teaching and for the topic. I'm rather new to Buddhism, and I'm just becoming aware of the chants. And one thing I've been curious about, not curious enough to go investigate it, but did the Buddha have this practice? Did this come after from his followers as another tool to use to practice? So that's kind of my question.
I really appreciate you asking that question. The Buddha, according to my teacher, the Buddha lived for 80 years. Okay, he died at the age of 80. And he gained enlightenment near the age of 30. Okay, so that means he had like 40, 50, he had a lot of time that he was teaching. He taught for like more than 30 years. And so his teaching did evolve over that 30, 40-year period. It started out being just about behavior. He encouraged his followers to leave home and shave their heads and wear robes and live in a monastic community and not marry and not have children and to eat one meal a day and, to practice what he called like a proper form of austerity in order to relinquish clinging to material things and become more able to sit in meditation and go beyond our notions that I was just talking about and become enlightened beings themselves. So he started with the idea that it was all about behavior and monasticism. But as his teaching evolved and progressed, he began to engage the ideas that then became known as the Mahayana Sutras, which started to appear in the 3rd century of the Common Era, which is more than 1,000 years after the Buddha lived. So the Mahayana Sutras do teach the stories of the bodhisattvas, and they do teach the mantra practice. So he didn't give it in his earliest teachings, but in his second, what they call the second turning of the wheel of Dharma. When historians, the Buddha didn't like sit and say, hi, today I am teaching from the first turning of the wheel, or today I am teaching from the second turning of the wheel, or today I am teaching from the third turning of the wheel. Scholars made that up after his death in order to systematize and help us understand his teaching. So during that second turning of the wheel, he talked about mantra practice. Although I think mantras actually did exist before in the earlier teachings, mantra practice really came into its own in the second turning of the wheel, where he said that you can use mantra as a protection for the mind. Some people even use mantra recitation as a silent interior prayer. Those of you who grew up and are of a certain age remember the Salinger novel about the person who was doing something called the Jesus prayer, which was a Christian form of mantra. And that person, that character in that novel, their life changed completely, thinking of Christ all the time. Well, you can recite a mantra in your head from time to time, and it becomes part of you. And that Buddha and Bodhisattva just continues to inspire you through the mantra. And so there's lots of ways that these practices can be used. But anyway, that's the Buddha did teach them, and he also taught offering, which was really interesting. Because, these types of offerings that we see in front, the Buddha himself did not want statues to be made of himself. And that was during the first turning of the wheel. He was just like not about it at all. But then after he died, it arose naturally. The statues of the Buddha at first only consist of 2 footprints, either chiseled in stone or cast in clay. And that the idea was that they would throw flower petals as an offering to connect themselves to what the Buddha was, and then also to connect and strengthen that which is Buddha within them. So does that help a little? Yeah, I really appreciate you asking that question. Yeah, yes, hi.
Hi, Lama Kathy. Thank you for the teaching.
Yeah.
On your website, you have like a shorter form of the like a Chenrezi practice.
Yeah.
Should people do that first, or should they do the how?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, I appreciate you asking about this. I've been teaching now, next year, if I live long enough, it'll be like 30 years since I graduated from 3-year retreat. It's like, what? That's like a whole lifetime for some folks. Anyway, but a friend of mine put together a website, and it's lamakathy.net. And on the downloads page, and the teachings and downloads page, there's a short beginner's practice of Chenrezig. And my brilliant friend, Tom Erlewine, created this in such a great way because he put the prayer on one side and what you're supposed to visualize on the other side, so that you could read the prayer and then close your eyes and do the visualization. So, but there's a Chen, and Khenpo, my teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, said even beginners who have no experience can do that. He also said the same about the medicine Buddha, and that's why there's a little medicine Buddha on there too. So people can download that.
Thank you.
Oh, no, thanks. Yeah, you can read about it and see. Hey, Tim, this will be our last question.
I have a comment and a question.
Sure.
When Paul asked about where are the bodhisattvas, I like to think that they're among us, and that I have something to learn from some other people.
I like that. I like that. Look to your left. Look to your right.
And my question is, some of these pujas are recited so fast.
I know.
That I have it's impossible for me to keep up. I lose my place, let alone to keep up.
I get you.
So do you have any suggestions on how to get involved with these pujas and not feel alienated?
I completely understand this. And the protector chant is really fast. And we do that on third Sundays, and boom, 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 boom. But you have to have special qualifications to even read that text. So it's mostly just a sit-in experience, just for people to sit in and experience the sound and the music that's played. And but the one that's fastest, pardon me? Well, that's what I was going to say. And so that means if that's set aside, that's one of the fastest ones is the protector chant. But the next fastest is the Tara chant. And I think part of the reason for that is because that's, if you go into poetry and read the poetry, they call her the swift one without fear. And so there's a tantra called the Tantra of Praise of the 21 Forms of Tara. And that goes super fast. Here's what I think. I think that what people can do is, we can talk about how to do this, but I tell people to get a copy of just the praises, since that's really the only part that's chanted fast, and read it at home. And read it in English and really get a sense of the meaning of it. And then start reading it in Tibetan to get a sense of it. It may take months of just reading it in English before you get a sense of what's going on in it. And then you can recite it in Tibetan gradually. And what I tell people is give yourself 6 months to a year this is worth doing. And so it's worth taking your time over and not pushing yourself too hard. And that's what I did. I gave myself 6 months, and it really helped. I just recited it slowly, once a day, every day, and then it really helped. Of course, we can slow down the chanting, and that's something we could consider, but then we wouldn't get the requisite number of recitations done in the time allotted. So we have a bit of a problem there. So that's something we have to work on from our side as organizers, to organize it a little better so it's not like that. Yeah, but I appreciate you asking. But that's what I tell people, because I've had like 3 or 4 people come to me in the last month and saying, I really like Tara, but I can't chant I can't. And I say, well, let's start working on it. And so my hope is that we'll teach a class on it soon. Because we're starting you can watch the newsletter, because we're starting to offer a monthly class, 1 a month. Last month was Medicine Buddha. This month is the Buddha Amitabha, which is part of the Chenrezig weekly. And then next month, I don't know if we're going to do Tara or if we're going to do Medicine Buddha in July. In July. But we'll do one a month and try to help people connect. So anyway, but thank you. I love the questions. I like the movie discussion. You know what this means. This means we got to have movie night. Now, I have to tell you the truth. This is spoiler alert. We are going to have a movie night, and it'll happen some Saturday night in July. So I hope you're not working Saturday nights, but we're going to try to have. It'll be a family movie night. So we'll see a movie that's family friendly, like somebody told me that we should see The Wild Robot. So anyway, Buddhist movie, I guess. So we'll do a movie and some snacks, but anyway, we could make it a movie club. In any case, thank you, for coming and again bringing your open-mindedness and your questions. And now that I know how much you like movies, okay. Noted. Well, now we'll gather together all the goodness from our conversation, and on the back of the laminated sheet, there's a dedication of merit. Buddhists are kind of interesting. We don't keep, we tend not to keep the goodness. We tend to want to give it away. So here's our giving of the goodness, and we'll just do this in English, okay? We'll start with the words by this merit. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. The courageous Manjushri, who knows everything as it is. Samantabhadra, who also knows in the same way, and all the bodhisattvas, that I may follow in their path, I completely dedicate all this virtue. Thank you. Thanks to all the volunteers, and thanks to all the folks who are here today, and we will see you next week. Okay, thank you, the sound department. Appreciate it.